Just a few pictures of the desserts that we'll be doing in our next couple of video demonstrations, simply with the goal of wanting to tempt you to really try these things. This is our apple Dartois. This is the tarte aux pommes rissolées, tarte aux pommes quadrille, the tarte hollandaise, and the conversation. Let's get a better shot of that. There we go. And that's our puff pastry that contains an almond cream with a royal icing top. So I hope this really gets your mouth watering, because we're going to do these pastries and they really are manageable and doable. Hello, I'm Ray Madursky and welcome to A Baker's Passion. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to take the puff pastry that I helped you to do in my last video and on my blog, and we're going to start making desserts with it. This demonstration will be how to put together a Dartois. This was a dessert that was really developed by Gaston Lenotre, and everybody has their own way of doing it. And I think it's the easiest way to get into the whole realm of puff pastry, working with it, and making tarts. This is a tart that's in a freestanding puff pastry case. And what we do is we make a wonderful apple compote, put that in the bottom, some sauteed diced apples, we've been sauteed in caramel, and some rum, and then we put a top on it and we decorate the top. This also gets you ready because a few desserts down the line we will be doing a petivier, and then after the petivier we'll do the Glarus pie from Switzerland. The petivier is a French cake that's filled with an almond cream, and it's double pieces of double crusts, really, of puff pastry. So we're going to make the Dartois, and I think this is going to be something that you're going to find absolutely spectacular, because visually the dessert is magnificent and it tastes so good, and it's really quite easy. It's going to seem like there's a lot of steps, and there are, but they're really easy. I mean, you do things and then you just walk away for a while. Most important thing whenever we're working with puff pastry, and we want to take it, especially to go into the idea of tarts and using it as a tart shell, we have to give it incredibly long, extended rests. It's really critical. So as we roll the dough, remember, in between each turn we want to do a rest. At the end you want to give it a few hours rest, and then once you've rolled it again to start forming whatever pastry you'll be making, you want to give it a long, cold chill. Okay, so let's get started with the Dartois. What I'm going to show you is what I do to prepare my apples. The first thing I do use an apple corer. I take out the cores, just remove them like this, and then I peel the apple. Now that the apple's been peeled, I just cut it right in half. Then I use a melon bowler, just remove the tough part of the core that remains. You can see in here there's a little bit of seed, so I'll get that all out. And there's this center that does tend to be a little fibrous, and it's tougher than the rest of the apple. Okay, so there are my apples. And now these are going to be used for the Dartois and for the tarte quadrille. So I'll show you how to cut them. I just coarsely dice them. I just go down, 4 cuts, and then just come along and cut again. And there you go. You have nice diced apples. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you next how to saute these in some caramel, because for three of the things that we're going to do, for the tarte quadrille, the Dartois, but then we're going to use eighths of apples. We also saute them in caramel, and then we throw in a dash of rum at the very end. So I'm going to show you how to do that next, okay? Okay, I have butter and sugar in the bottom of a pan, and I'm just going to turn it into caramel, and then I'm going to put my apple dice into it and just toss it for a minute or two, add a few tablespoons of rum, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to throw the apples back in because the caramel's reduced. Just toss them and then they're done. Okay, we want to get the caramel coating them. And then I'm going to throw in a splash of dark rum. My apples have been cooking just about an hour, so I'm just going to now press down. They're on a very low heat. I want to cook them until they become an absolute caramel. And that's actually good enough. That's all you have to do. You can see there's still some lemon peel and things in there. Wow, it tastes great right now. I can taste the vanilla bean. I put a half of a vanilla bean in there and scrape the seeds and the pods in there somewhere. And it's got the peeled zest from one lemon. So it's getting there, and we'll see it in a few, probably 30 minutes or so. Okay, so now I'm going to roll out one whole batch of dough. I'm going to cut it into two pieces, and we're going to form the two pieces for the Dartois. About like so. Like that. Okay, so this is the bottom. Now the bottom piece I'm going to dock. It simply means put a whole lot of holes in it so it'll rise evenly in the oven. You can see the dough is about 3/30 seconds of an inch thick. Just a little bit thicker than a 1/16, but not quite an 1/8 of an inch thick. Now, a real good time to really remove all of the excess flour that you possibly can. Now I'm going to take my docker. If you don't have one of these gadgets, and you don't really need one, but you do have to perform docking, all you do is get some forks and just go over the dough that way. Okay, so that's my first piece. and I'm placing it on a sheet pan that's been lined. And the most important part of what we're doing whenever we're making anything at all with puff pastry is that we're giving the dough, once it's been worked, incredible amounts of time to rest and relax in the cold. Probably nothing is more important than giving this dough at least a couple of hours to relax. Now I'm going to roll the top piece of my Dartois. So always begin by using the rolling pin. Somewhat soften the dough, make it a little bit malleable. Now this piece will be rolled to about 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to continue rolling. Okay, and we're just going to remove the excess flour from both sides of our pastry, and then we'll place it on the sheet and refrigerate it. And it's best to refrigerate it at least 2 hours before actually forming the Dartois. And I have the bottom piece, which is beautifully docked. We're just going to sit it in here. And we're not going to worry about the size or anything else at this point. Here's the beautiful apple compote. You can see it's really dark and rich, beautifully caramelized. And we're going to put on a layer just, about 1/4 of an inch thick. Very, very simple. There we go. That's actually great. Now I'm leaving this this size because my top piece is actually a little bit smaller. So I'm compensating. We want to have about a 1/2 inch border all the way around when we put our pieces of dough together. And this will all make sense as we continue assembling. We're just going to put handfuls of apple on top of the applesauce. And you'll see that the tart quadrille and the Dartois are really related. The quadrille is an older version of a dessert, and Le Nôtre came up with the idea to do it this way, I think, when he wrote his first pastry book for home bakers. So this is really kind of a fun and wonderful homage to Le Nôtre, who was really a great, great guy, a wonderful and beloved teacher and master chef. So there we go, that's all we have to do there. So we're just going to very generously brush, and this in this position is actually our glue that will hold everything together. We're going to give a nice brushing, and now I'll place the upper pastry onto the Dartois. As you do this, you want to make sure you're going to have extra everywhere. And you want to try and push out as much as you can. Now, I do have a little bit of leaking there. It's not the end of the world. But use your fingers and really crimp this. Now this will go back into the fridge for about 20 minutes and then we'll do the trimming. Okay, so now we're going to trim the Dartois. So now's the time to brush the piece of pastry on the top with the egg wash and just a real quick coat. And then we're going to trim and it'll go back in the fridge and continue relaxing till it's had a good 1 hour or so rest. So nice, generous wash of egg. Now, even though some of this pastry is going to have the egg wash on it, we're going to save the scraps. Okay, I like to use a pastry wheel, and I think it'll become evident why when you see what I'm going to do here. So go one piece at a time. There we go. And then our last piece, the last edge, we'll trim right like this. The reason for trimming so specifically is we want to keep the edges as neat as possible so that the dough will rise. Go into the oven, the preheated very hot oven, and all of the liquid creates steam, pushes the layers of dough, the butter that's also in layers, then melt and tenderize everything. And that's how the magic of puff pastry occurs. So we're going to go back in the fridge with our Dartois. Okay, we're ready to get this into the oven. So what I'm going to do is a second glazing just on the top parts with this wonderful egg wash. And then we're going to decorate. And to decorate, I like doing it simply at first, and you'll also get some good practice for your petiviers. Very, very simple. First thing we want to do, I've got a plain tip pastry tube, and we're going to make a vent. So we need that steam to be able to escape. So we've got our little vent. Now we're going to take a knife, a paring knife, and I'm going to take the back edge and just crimp into the pastry. Approximately regular intervals. Just because it affords us a little bit of a decorative edge, but you'll see what else it does. Okay, now you want to use the sharp end of the knife, and we're just going to go into the pastry and not cut all the way through, but just cut very thin decorative lines coming down and around. And this is exactly what we do with our Petivier. Okay, now I've got the scores made, and I didn't cut all the way through the dough, but I did cut about halfway in. Now I'm going to throw this back in the fridge just till the temp of the oven comes up to 425. Then we'll throw them in the oven and we'll bake them. Well, you can see I've just taken the Petivier, the Dartois out of the oven, and you can see how simply scoring into the puff pastry after it's been glazed, you get this magnificent design with no effort. It's really elegant and absolutely delicious. So this is one of the first things that I think you really should try to start beginning to develop your technique for working with puff pastry. It's very simple, it's very easy, and it's an amazing dessert, guys. It's really, really good. So here is our Dartois. Well, I hope this video showing you how to assemble and prepare the Dartois has been helpful. And I hope you'll go to my blog, www.abakerspassion.com, look at the recipes, and then just actually try doing the puff pastry and really just beginning to play with these laminated doughs. Once I finish doing the desserts that you saw today and doing videos with them, we will eventually do some other laminated doughs, such as croissant, Danish pastry. There's a Swiss version that's somewhere between the Danish and the croissant, a sweet laminated dough. So they're wonderful, wonderful things we can do. And you've got the basics now. If you try doing this, you understand that these things aren't as challenging as you may have thought in the past. So for A Baker's Passion, I'm Ray Madursky, and of course now, my favorite part of the day, I get to taste the Dartois. So I'm going to cut a little piece here. Pieces from my favorite portion in the corner. The interplay of the caramelized apple compote, the applesauce, with the sauteed apples and the puff pastry and the buttery richness. It's amazing, guys, and you've got to try it. And in my opinion, beginning with the Dartois, it's the way to go. So for A Baker's Passion, I'm Ray Madursky, and thank you so much for watching this video, and please like the video on YouTube.